Good day, everybody. We're super excited. This is episode 3 kicking off today. And we've got our first guest on, Hopewell Adams. He is a third-year law student, and he's the founder and Chief Executive Officer of Politics with Adams. We're just really excited to have you on board. Welcome, brother.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome.
I'm sure we're going to have a good chat.
Definitely. I've been looking forward to this conversation, and let's get into it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I have to start off, and it's a humble request, or not a humble request, it's actually a bit of a compliment, but I think you've got the coolest name in the world. Hopewell, right?
Most definitely.
Well filled with hope is probably one of the best things that one can imagine. That was the first thing that I actually noticed, when we connected. Hopewell, listen, I think the first question, I think, just to get things going, is tell us a bit more about about yourself, your story, how you grew up, your life, how you actually made the decision, to start studying law, and then obviously, if you could then intro that into your love for politics.
Okay. So my life is not really that complicated. My life is okay. So I grew up in an area called Limpopo, Polokwane, to be specific, and I grew up in a very nice, loving family, stable, family of discipline, family of love, family of Christianity. And, as a Christian, you would always, when you grow up, you would always see the different standards of living, right? And you would always see, or would always ask yourself, why is these people living in this condition? Why is these people living so differently than me? And I think that is where my journey of politics came about. At a very young age, I would be sitting there when the National Assembly is going on. At the time, it was the President, Thabo Mbeki. And that's when I actually discovered that, I actually love politics, So, which is also one of the rooted decisions I took in relations to law. I felt like the only way you can make an impact in government
or by changing them.
Changing the world is through actually the legal space.
Yes.
So that's how my journey came about of studying law and also engaging into politics. And by the way, people don't know, I also come from a political background.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I come from a political background, and my father is one of the provincial secretary of Nihau.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's when I also discovered that actually I love politics, because I would engage with the man and would give him advices. Say, no, this is how you do things. This is how you engage in politics. So that's how my political journey came about. Also.
Yeah, so it was like a household discussion.
Definitely.
Right.
It's so nice to engage with your fathers, and have a relationship. A son and father type of relationship.
Well, I can say, because I came out of a health house, I can say that.
Yeah.
So I grew up with health, and it's so true that you're saying, because like I understand, it's almost like you get like a little bit of a deeper understanding with politics, because it's almost like you're born and bred.
Yeah.
And the household discussions is like, we and Stephan had the discussion the other day about us being in a house. He grew up in a super corporate house.
Yeah.
So his corporate talk for him is second nature. Health talks and the whole medicine industry and how medicine flow and how the whole medicine industry work is second nature for me, because I heard that talk from a boy of 10 years old.
Yeah.
So if I can ask, so we actually, so me and Stephan had this discussions, and obviously we just get on a roll, and then we start talking about some issues that we face in our country. And I think maybe if I can probe that question to you. So me and Stephan had this conversation, I think in episode 2, that we spoke about, we want to drive, and we almost on this hunt to look for unity in South Africa.
Yeah.
Because we believe that, and I think we all can agree that there's not unity in our country. It's been a while since we've felt that unity in our nation with a common goal, that we have something. Yes, there will always be like cultural differences, and we had a lot of comments after our and a lot of people messaging us regarding what we discussed. But we discussed something in the sense of and we were not debating, but we were talking about a common goal in our country, and we were talking about investments coming in our country, and if our country can work towards that, if our country can, and government specifically, but and we were debating if it needs to come from government or maybe guys like us, or how do you probe this and how do you start it, because it's not this simple.
Interesting, eh?
Yeah. And then we had a comment of a lady that asked us, listen, but she's got young children in the country, and what's the future of that? And that's maybe something that we can discuss, because both of us, obviously you don't have children yet, but both of us got young children, and it's something that I really believe if nobody's going to do anything about it, if nobody's going to drive that unity, and have something, we're not going to have unity in our country. We're not going to have something if we do not probe that unity. I cannot see how it's going to happen, because and we spoke about people waiting for government to bring it. It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen from them.
I'm gonna agree with you on some aspects, and some of them I'm just gonna give my point of view. Right?
Please.
So, in relations to unity, unity has been a struggle ever since democracy has been implemented. A lot of people are still holding a grudge on what happened in the past. Let's get over that. It happened.
We cannot do anything about the past.
Let's move forward. Let's bring the country and look at what are we lacking, in a country, and let's try and reinstate that. Let's try and reform that. I mean, South Africa is rich in a lot of minerals, and we can make a lot of money out of that. Africa as a whole is rich in minerals. We can actually do a lot of collaborations with African countries, and we form a very united African continent. Before we even start with the country, a very African united continent, And unity, it's not all about race, gender, age. But unity, it's all about loving one another as Africans and bringing solutions to the table and saying, guys, what are we going to do about these solutions? Let us bring African countries on board and let us implement opportunities from there, so that we as African continents can bring what we call foreign investors. Foreign investors want what we call profits, right? They're keen on profits. So if we can, as an African country, unite and bring opportunities, right? Then we will have the likes of China, Chinese, the likes of the United Nations to come on board and say, we would like to invest in what you guys are doing.
And that's exactly what we spoke. And it's great that you touch on this, because it's the same thread. It's we spoke about obviously, because we need a foreign investment.
Of course.
And for our country to get foreign investment, we need to gain trust. And for the trust to be gained, something needs to happen.
Definitely.
And I really believe that with the African continent, there's something to play. And we had the discussion that I believe that South Africa plays a huge part for unity to be in Africa as a continent. I don't say I believe it's going to become one place, but who knows? Maybe it will become something like the United States, because that's actually different countries in continent. But for me, but maybe let's probe the chat towards what some of the solutions. So is there some?
But if I can, because I could see that we're going to run fast there. I just want to get back to something that you mentioned earlier, because I really think that it's actually a key topic. And when I say topic, it's actually a key hurdle that I think we really need to overcome. And so the question is, you mentioned that what's in the past is in the past, right? And we at a stage in our country, and most probably in the continent, and most probably in the world, right, where our generation needs to look at this, or at least that's the question, right, needs to look at this and say, what's in the past is in the past. Let's now look to the future. How do we move forward? The question being, why do you think have we not been able to actually achieve that, or do you think we might have achieved that, right? I think that's sort of the first portion. And if we haven't really achieved that, the how portion, how do we then do it? You get what I'm saying? Because it's such a difficult thing. We and I don't want to flog a dead horse in terms of the question, but it's something that at face value, when people talk about this, it's like people just agree quite quickly. Yes, what's in the past is in the past, let's forget about it and let's move forward.
But when it becomes personal, then...
Well, and when it comes to actually doing it, it's like, how do you do, have we done it and how do we do it? You get what I'm saying? Because it doesn't seem to be that easy.
Yeah. So normally when you have these type of conversations, well, I know, because you find it also in the political space, where you find politicians always, it's the key master to say, hey, we remember what happened, and it gets to the younger generations, the younger generations also take it to schools, where
it's like a deep embedded. It gets embedded deep.
Definitely, where you would find a black child would act offensive because of that, or you'd find a white child also being offensive with that. This thing, it all started when in history this thing came into place, because they are taught about these things in history. They learn about this on a day-to-day. But the question is, are you learning with the intentions of bettering your knowledge and saving your country, or are you learning with the intentions of taking your country back to that space? Because if you are learning with the intentions of taking your country back to that space, we are not going to serve
but does
the goal.
And this is maybe, Stephan, because it feels like our country and our government is taking us back the whole flippant time.
Yeah.
It's like constantly pushing agendas to take us back into the situation we were in.
Yeah.
And we as youngsters believe that, we want to build this country. We want to, what's done is done, and yes, let that be. We said, what my grandfather did, I cannot stand. What he did is what he did.
Yeah.
It's what does the future hold? What does and we know it's prosperity, and we know that we only have influence in what's going to come.
Definitely.
We cannot change, but it's it's gravitating towards. And listen, I think there's you know more about politics maybe than me. I'm not so interested in the whole politics thing.
Yeah.
But it's almost like it becomes it's a tactic.
Of course.
Well, here's a thought, right, then, because I know you want something to say, and I'm going to leave this there, then you can comment on it.
Okay.
Because I think it's going to add value. If I'm wrong, then you can say so, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing, to me it feels like if you speak more about the past than the future, you're going to keep on living in the past.
Of course.
You get what I'm saying? And that's the thing. So I think if one actually starts opening up your ears and starts saying, okay, listen, percentage-wise, if we look at the political conversation in South Africa, what percentage of it is really focused on the future?
On the future, and
what percentage is really focused on the past? You get what I'm saying? And that's in reference to your statement regarding, it's almost like we're being taken back to it. Whether that's true or not, I'm not sure. But I'm trying to point out that, you speak things into being to a certain degree, right?
Of course.
So and for our generation, this is the whole thing. Are we actually really speaking to the future? Are we actually really focused on the future? You get what I'm saying? Because it doesn't feel it, right?
Definitely. Well, that's why I'm not actually disagreeing with any of the statements. That's why I'm saying it's very important. If these people are focused mainly on the past, which is these government officials and the cabinet, we already know that the cabinet has old politicians who claim they have fought for the struggle. Yes, we understand that you fought for the struggle, but it's not doing us any justice as young people. That is why we as young people, we have to actually be in those positions. I'm not saying positions of power, but we must be advisors to these people to say that is not the route that we are
that's
taking.
not how I feel.
We are delaying the upcoming generation from taking this country to its full potential, rather.
And listen, I'm just asking, and because I assume there's not a lot of people in that positions that they will even listen to, because it's a little bit of a cultural thing as well.
Yeah, well, I know a few who are, a bit younger, and they are into those spaces, but I feel like they are not talking loud enough.
I get you.
They are not actually addressing these matters loud enough. So I think government must normalize the fact of bringing young people and being able to listen to young people.
But the thing is, with South Africa being such a conservative country,
Yeah.
I think there's something to it that the elders don't listen to the youngsters until the youngsters make a lot of noise.
I hear you.
If
I
and
hear
it's
in
a
terms of
feel.
where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But what I do want to say is, because I mean, you raise an interesting point, and I think the comment is really good, right? But this is very controversial.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the reason is I don't think, or I think it's going to be very difficult to debate the fact that the younger people, and we might need to define younger people, right? From my perspective, it's going to be between 20 and 35.
Yeah.
Right?
Of course.
Has a voice. Okay. But the flip side to it is a voice doesn't necessarily mean authority. Because wisdom does come with age and with experience, right? So there is sort of this play between both sides, of this coin, and because I very much doubt that it would be wise to just have a minister that's 28 years old.
Yeah.
Right or wrong, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying there's risk involved. So question being, with that as the foundation, how do you see it, or what do you mean with them actually, or with the young generation actually having a voice, towards the decision makers in the country?
For example, I can give you one example. I actually didn't want to mention names, but I'm going to mention names.
We can keep them out.
I didn't want to mention names, but I'm just going to mention a few names.
Okay.
So there's this young lady that is 27 years of age, doing well. She was the youngest councillor. If you've watched the news, you might have picked her up. She was the youngest councillor in Tshwane. Actually, she was partaking in the elections of being a councillor, and she was doing quite well. I think at that time she didn't get the chair, but the ANC saw potential in her. They brought her. She's now working with the Deputy Secretary General of the ANC, Nomvula Mkonyane, as her advisor.
Wow.
So we're not saying put us into positions of power, premiers and ministers and mayors. Yes, we believe that we will obtain the experience as time goes on. But the only way you can obtain experience is if you are put in that position, in that office, and you can know how to run the daily administrations of those offices. So if you're an advisor to the Secretary General, the advisor to the President, the advisor to a mayor, then you can make a huge impact, and you can advise the mayor and say, no, this is not the route that we can go. Honorable Mayor, let's rather use this route,
Yes.
This is how the youngsters feel. This is how we look at it. It's
Definitely.
Not, we don't look at it
we don't
the
look at
same
it,
way.
We don't look at it, 10 years ago time frame. We're looking at a phrase of let's look at the next 20 years to come and what the next 20 years has for us. How can we contribute about it? And this is what youngsters believe is fast and efficient. So that is the only way we can tackle things.
Well, that's powerful, right? Because I mean, here's the thing: it's reciprocal because it's bottom up and top down.
Yeah.
So now you've got this view from the bottom. I'm saying the bottom.
And the wisdom from the
an
top.
age perspective,
Definitely.
right? But here's the thing, right? It's also a bit of a succession planning.
Yeah.
Because now you're actually pulling people up into the political sphere, and sort of, but actively, right? It's sort of it's very practical. It's not just a conversation they're actually involved in it. So I think I agree.
Yeah, before you even close that conversation, whether these leaders like it or not, if they don't involve young people in politics, they must know that young people are not going to vote.
No.
Young people are not going to participate.
And it needs to be lucrative. Young people need to want to be in politics.
Yes, I mean, if you look at statistics and you look at the number of people that young people are not voting, there's actually small amounts of young people engaging in politics. Yeah, go check statistics, you will see. I mean, as a total of statistics, you would find that people from 18 years to 19 years of age, or 18 years to 20 years of age, you would find that they only have 300,000 registered votes.
Wow.
Yeah, okay.
For young people.
Yes. Okay, and I mean, listen, I guess the logical question on that is, how do we affect that positively, though? Honestly, now.
The only way, that's what I'm saying, the only way we can make young people participate in politics is for the government to deliver. You know, the government must be keen on their word. That's why, which I got the questions yesterday, which you've sent me. I'm like, hey, I guess it's a nice conversation that we're going to have, because I believe that the only way we can actually get young people into being active in politics is when we have the government and the private sector meeting their heads together.
And it makes sense.
You know, meeting their heads together. Let's take, for instance, the programs that government can initiate. I mean, there are programs that government can initiate. Let's look at China, for example. China was able to build a hospital in a number of how many days?
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
But it's and I watched the interview actually that you sent me about Vusi and Gareth Cliff.
Yeah.
And it's such a insightful. I don't know if you watched it, but just you need to go watch it. It's really good. And Vusi actually explained it there quite in detail.
Yeah.
What China did regarding the incentive-based way that the officials move up in government in China, and that's why state-owned entities, he believes, will not work in our country.
Of course.
Because you cannot give a performance-based entity to something that's ran in a non-performance based system. So and that's something that really got me thinking.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
the thing is, that's why some of our state stuff doesn't work, and
Definitely.
companies doesn't work because
Definitely.
It becomes very philosophical. Well, I mean,
listen, but the logic and the first principle of that make 100% sense. It makes sense.
Well, you know, with my take about business-wise, leadership-wise, I believe that the only way we can get this right, it's my personal opinion,
Sure.
The only way we can get this right is if we have the government partnering with the private sector. We come up with a solution, and we say, let's initiate programs for children who want to be involved in business. Give them programs before you give them money. Because if you give them money before programs, they are going to eat the money.
Exactly. Business will make you money.
So business will make you money.
Money will make you lazy.
Exactly. So you
They
can't,
know
you can't
business.
give, you can't give someone money for the sake of giving them and trusting them with your money and say, open a business. And you don't know their track record. You don't know how they
Most
will
people
bring that
don't
money
know
back.
even how to start a business.
How to start a business. So rather, let's take these people, bring them together. They initiate programs. We go to schools. We accommodate those who want to become businessmen, businesswomen. We accommodate those who want to occupy positions of leadership. We give them the necessary training. We engage, we give them the platform to give us ideas. And then from there, those programs will polish the idea.
And I agree 100% with this, because this is, Stephan, what we spoke about, because this could be one, how can I say, one of that common goals that, because we said, listen, we spoke about Dubai and how Dubai, got and built that city in quite a significant time.
Yeah.
Yes, they had a lot of money, but for me, we need to start somewhere because the clock's ticking.
Of course.
So initiate, and because, Stephan's a CA by trade.
Yeah.
But what you learned out of your books, listen, it's great. But there's a lot of stuff they didn't learn you, and that wasn't taught to you, that you learned while being in business.
Of course.
I can neither confirm nor deny that.
So it's fine. You can. I know what the truth is. And I think most of the Oaks know what the truth is. I'll put it on. So yeah. Sorry for putting you in that position. But the thing for me is, if there's a program that's run quite, rather sooner than later, to raise up the next generation, to put them and enable them to know how to make 1 rand, 2 rand, to unlock that within our country.
Of course.
And if that's not going to happen, because somewhere in this, period of people growing up, and that needs to happen, and most find it out by rather failing because they had the lack of knowing what to do in business.
Of course.
So they fail, and then they go for advice, and because everybody thinks they can run a business. To be honest, they go out and try to start a business, and then halfway through, or like in the first year, see, oh goodness, this is not so easy.
Yeah.
And what I learned is not actually what's happening currently to me.
Of
in
course.
this current state.
Yeah.
So, but rather to have a practical initiative, and that is speaking to that common cause that we are after almost.
Yeah.
So, but it makes sense.
I think on a what shall I say, on a entrepreneurial level, right? That's definitely the play, because I mean now the conversation is moving towards economical growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, if you take it back to what we discussed initially, right? That if we just teach people, and it's part of the solution, I think, suspect at least, to make R1, R2, we still maintain the situation where we just move money around in the country.
We need foreign investment.
Ultimately, step one would be to increase the pot, to bring investment into the country. You get what I'm saying? So that when you then turn R1 into R2,
Yeah.
that there's actually an increase in wealth, on a national level. So for me, and I think that's where your comment really rings true, is where government and business actually has a meeting of minds. Let's say government and big business, right?
Yeah.
The private sector.
They have to play a role in this,
Well, both, right?
Both of them.
Private sector and public
private
sector.
and we that's why I'm saying we can't always rely on government, because
We cannot.
Government has a lot on their plate.
Yeah.
Sure.
They have a lot on the plate. But the private sector, if they are going to deal with this upcoming businessman, if the private sector is going to deal with this, let's take, for example, a person who's going to own a company in the mines. If you're going to deal with someone like that, then you have to have the skills to do so. If you want to work at a bank, you have to have the skills to do so. It's a
You need to
private sector.
understand it.
You have to understand it. And sometimes for you to understand it, you have to start at a young age. Because if you can see what the young people are doing right now, it's not advisable for them to do it, because they are wasting their time in clubs, in doing things that are not actually going to produce results at a later stage.
But one thing that I then do want to put, and I mean, I'm going to play devil's advocate a bit here, just because I mean, it's an interesting point that you make, right?
Yeah,
And that is, well, I think it's a very risky thing to view the status quo that only the private sector actually has the skills. Because the question becomes, if the public sector doesn't have the skills that you're referring to, right? Why is that, and how do we change that, and should we even change that? You get what I'm saying? Because it certainly makes sense that the public sector, i.e. government, actually also builds up the skills, to actually manage these things. You get what I'm saying? And is it even their objective? This is now where it becomes difficult, because I'm not convinced that the government is a profit sector, right?
Definitely, that's what I'm saying. It's very keen for us to actually have these two people coming to play. I mean, there's this young man that is also quite doing well in the political space, and his organization has both the government and the private sector involved, which is SA Youth Economic Council. So what SA Youth Economic Council does is they bring the relevant ministers, they bring Standard Bank, they bring Nedbank, they bring all these other private sectors, and they address all these matters in one room, and then from then they provide the necessary solutions, and then from then they type a whole document of that specific minutes of the
speaking about.
And then from then they know that this is the mandate that government has to play, this is the mandate that the private sector has to play. Let's meet each other halfway and then move this mandate forward. So these are the type of things that we need for South Africa to actually become the country that we would like it to be.
So how do we drive that then to fruition? How do we execute on that?
So what we have to do, I guess it's one of the talks that we usually have on our platform, is we actually, my job actually normally on a day-to-day when I do my podcasts, I bring these people into one place. So we'd find that you would have a government official, not only a government official, but an MP, a member of parliament, or a premier or whoever that comes on the platform, we engage about the relevant solutions, and then we tell them, listen, we have someone in the private sector that's doing this and that and that and that. Can you please kindly engage with them? You know, and we bring these people into place, and then, of course, if we have a mandate that we have to serve with the time, with the due
I
time,
agree with the time.
you know.
The thing is, it cannot be open. We need to have deadlines towards stuff.
Definitely.
And we need to then implement, and then the results need to be measured.
Definitely.
Because I think there's a lot of fluffy things happening currently. There's a lot of, we saw a couple of, actually some of the senior oaks in our country, businessmen, CEOs, that's putting things together to drive change. So there is definitely a common feel in the country that something needs to happen, rather sooner than later. But the thing is, I've been involved in some of those projects, and it just falls away. It's like there's almost like somebody that stops it along the line, and stops some of those projects to succeed. So, but listen, for me, I think the unity chat still is almost like hanging for me a bit, and I want to get to that again, Stephan, specifically about what we spoke. The unity in our country. Because from our side, and not to say there's our sides and your sides, we South Africans, and I think there's a direction Africa moved towards, and specifically in Africa. Obviously, we know that they were almost like, I think from Europe almost were like parasites on Africa. And with all the digital aging and all these things happening, I think most of African countries' eyes opened, and they're moving towards one direction. But in South Africa specifically, the disunity of people trying to move into positions, specifically in our politicians. It feels like we are worse off, and that was one of the topics me and Stephan spoke about in our previous episode. And I just want to have your opinion about this. Where do you see this going? Do you think it's going to get worse coming the next, let's say, 5 years or so on? Because we believe, and I strongly believe, that next year's election is super pivotal for our country.
Of course.
So where do you see this almost like the disunity in our country, specifically racial, and with nothing being done with Eskom? You get me? All these, you get my point. It's almost like we're worse off now. Yeah. And do you think we're gonna go down? It's gonna get way worse, and then only start getting better?
So what
could it change rather quickly? Because it's a difficult question, and Stephan, you can maybe also think a bit about that.
But one thing I've realized: unity has become a problem in the country, and of course, I'm going to touch based on what people still have in mind, the old, and then secondly, before we even go to unity. Is our political leaders, combining as one to meet the mandate of the country? They are not.
They're not.
They are not. Everyone has their own specific agenda. That is why you would find there is a lot of corruption going on till this date. You would find also in a state-owned entity like Eskom, you would find that there is a level of high corruption going on there, which is not going to serve us any justice. So the only way we can actually save South Africa from the disaster is that's when you have two minds in one place, and when you have two minds in one place, you are able to minimize what we call corruption. And I think we should also, which is my legal department, we should also amend the Constitution, because the Constitution is not doing us any justice, because I mean, if a president is going to sit in position of power for 10 years, first 5 years is the first term, and then he's voted again for another 5 years, it's a second term, which is 10 years. Are we going to meet the requirements that we're looking for as a country? We are not.
Can I probe you on that? And I'll jump back to the unity, but just on this, because again, and I'm playing devil's advocate here, because I've thought about this, and it is quite interesting, right? Because there's the one school of thought that says, listen, you obviously have elections every X amount of years, and then you obviously put in a new government, or you keep the same government, and then within the South African system, obviously they can change internally who's actually the president, right? Because in South Africa you vote for parties and not
not individuals.
Then the flip side is obviously the situation where whoever is placed in government can remain there for an extremely long tenure, right? Here's the question: if it constantly changes, right, can there truly be growth? You get what I'm saying? Because if it constantly shifts in terms of policy, if it constantly shifts in terms of direction, it's moving backwards and forwards, You get what I'm saying? So how do you actually view that? Do you really believe that it's better to actually change government, over a certain frequency, or actually keep it, the same for a longer tenure?
Okay, so I think changing would work, but that's what I'm saying. When you have perhaps a different president, right, for this specified term, and then another one on that specified term,
Same
it would
party,
work.
different president.
Yeah, same party but different president. The policy of the organization, it's one. We all have to meet the same mandate. But what we are requiring from you is your skills.
Sure.
It's your new ideas that you can put into the party, the new ideas that you can put within the country. I mean, for example, if we have the likes of President Ramaphosa for next year again, after 2020, what do we call 2024 national elections, it's going to become a problem, because already we can see where we are heading in its governance. And sometimes we also need what we call businessmen as leaders of government, because businessmen, they know how to drive the day-to-day of a business, and they know how to grow a business and an economy. So we need that in governance. We don't always need politicians in positions of power.
Politicians
it's not working.
they do things political.
It's not working.
And listen, I think for me, I was super excited when President Cyril Ramaphosa became president, because I really believed in his ability, because he understands business. But obviously, I don't know what happened there. I think politics happened.
I think maybe politics happened. Because
politics happened.
Listen, to be fair, and when I'm saying fair, I think that's very difficult to actually unravel, without having all the facts. But for me, the one thing that I will say is, and this is where the whole thinking regarding having business people in politics comes into play. I'm not really sure if it does, but here's the point. You need to be exceptional at administration. This is the thing. Because the moment you step into politics, right, you receive authority over things, a multitude of authority over things. Then what you need to do is you need to administer that very efficiently and very effectively. And it feels like this is where it actually, where the ball is being dropped. And that's a painful thing to actually sort of stare in the face or address even, because you need to actually understand that if you're given this authority, you need to take it seriously.
You have to. You have to.
And this is now obviously where the whole discussion comes into play about it actually being measured. If you're not actually measuring it, you cannot manage it, right? I think we should park that for a second, because we're going to roll into that a bit later.
Of course.
To touch on the unity thing again, because again, this is a big thing in our country. It's always been a big thing. And I mean, we're hammering it, I think, for a specific reason, because it feels to me, at least, that it's the one thing that almost everybody in our country actually wants. You get what I'm saying? It's not like every person you meet in South Africa wants the country to unite. And when I say unite, I mean unite in terms of common cause. Things need to work. Service delivery needs to work. Leadership needs to be in place. Goals need to be set. They need to be measured. They need to be met, right? Unifying and sort of building the stream that goes down the right direction. And what sort of really wrecks my mind about it is, how is it possible that it is the one thing that almost everybody really wants, yet it's the one thing we're
That keeps it
struggling to obtain.
To obtain.
Well, I
Which
think,
is true.
I think
So-
Stephan, that go on.
Well, here's the thing, right? One thing that I want to drop on the table again, and happy to be debated on this and convinced otherwise if it's wrong. But if we truly want to unite, we actually truly need to be willing to look past any differences.
Yeah.
And it feels to me like it's easy to say, very difficult to do.
It's a hard
what I'm
change that need to happen.
Yeah.
And I think government, Stephan, because government is and specific politicians is corrupt. It's like almost they go and like get that little sensitive piece and open up that wound every now and again, every 2 years. you get my pinching that
Yes.
thing, and that's the thing that I believe that needs to stop, and that's what I agree with you, that that unity needs to happen at the top first. Needs to happen at the top first. They need to unify.
It has to happen at the top first. That's why I'm saying it's very important for us as individuals to actually advise these people. Because whether we like it or not, politicians don't know what's going on the ground.
Yeah.
Politicians are always either in meetings of administration, and meetings of, all these type of things, traveling from one country to another.
Yeah.
So they can't see the impact that is happening on the ground. They can't see the impact that is happening around the society at large. So you need someone who's very young who would say, listen, I always drive the streets of Pretoria every single day. I always drive the streets of Johannesburg every day. I can see the difference or the different standards of living that are actually occurring. I can see what happened in a private school or a government school that has mixed race. The only way we can make a difference in the country is let's put the differences aside. Let's come back together and let us meet a common goal. Whether we like it or not, the difference is not going to make a chance. The old is not going to make any better. It's going to make things even worse.
Yeah.
Because what you can recall about this, what happened in the past, it's also affecting the current generation.
And it's stopping us from prospering.
Exactly. We won't meet the mandate of saving the country with economic growth, saving the country. Well, I've never believed in what we call the RDP. I'm not going to lie. I've never believed in the concept of RDPs, the concept of social grants, the concept of what we call the social relief grant, which it's called 350 to help. It's not going to help the country with anything.
Money without.
Rather let's also focus on those who are entitled to it, which are elderly people who cannot produce anything in the economy. They want to sit down and they feel like, I can't make an impact. But rather, let's bring those young people who are so dependent on this. Let's take that money and let's create jobs.
That's it. Rather create a system, and that's what we spoke about.
Yeah, let's create jobs.
I'll keep on telling it. If you give people money without work, it makes them lazy.
Definitely.
It's just how it works. That's the first principle for me. You need to work to be able to provide for your family.
Of course.
Well, listen, I think you're right. But here's the thing. To do that, there needs to be work to do.
Exactly. But the thing is,
You guys
government.
get what I'm saying? Because
100%.
this is the situation. If there's not enough jobs, you can't have people starving.
Yeah.
So fundamentally, that takes us back to the conversation of, guys, we need to grow the economy.
We
economy
have to grow the
needs to
economy.
grow.
But then now, how much is the government spending on grants?
No, it's
In a year.
Value, but it's a crazy.
In a year. It would be billions and billions of rands. When you take those billions and billions of rands and you invest into the economy and you create jobs, how many jobs would you create with billions?
Well, I know that Eskom needs a lot of work on all their machines.
Yeah.
So
Because it's old.
and it's old machines. So upskill those people, employ them in Eskom, give them work, and then obviously we've got to most probably, and obviously there's skill that needs to be acquired. That's why they need to be upskilled. But start the program rather sooner than later, because the issue of the ESCOM need to be upgraded
Of course.
is not going to go away.
Definitely.
So
Well,
that and it's almost like that type of things that we are almost after.
Yeah.
To sort of trying to get this and not to say we're going to pitch this to anybody, but who knows? Maybe we will.
Definitely. But that's why I'm saying we as young people must be in the center of it all. You know? We must be in
need
the
to drive
center
it.
of it
Well,
all.
because the older generation is going to die off and we're going
After.
to sit with this.
And we cannot allow the older generation to make decisions that are going to affect, us as young people. They won't be in the future to account for the decisions they took 20 years back. You know? So it's very important for us to be in the decision making of
Of our future.
all these things that governments are doing.
Or at least have some sort of say in what the future will hold that we will live in. 20
Definitely,
years.
that's what I'm saying. The government or the judiciary is always practicing. Before we implement a law in the legislature, we always call the public to come and give their opinions. But then my question is, how many opinions is the public going to give, and how many opinions is this the government going to take from all those public opinions? But rather, if we have these young people in those positions where they are advising you as elderly, when you make a policy in the legislature, you know that, oh, okay, actually, what this person said is what the country agrees about. You know?
I agree. There's definitely truth to it. It's just the way and how to flip and how to implement.
I think the only start that we can do, what we are doing right now, is a start. Addressing matters
I agree.
on public platforms it's the quicker way to get the message straight to government. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I've seen it with myself. I've seen it with my podcast where I address relevant matters to young people, and then now you would find influential people, members of parliament, coming into the party and saying, "Listen, I agree with what you've said. You know, what is the way forward? How can we engage? How can we save the country?" And then from then you take it from there. So the step is addressing these relevant matters in these type of platforms. You know,
and giving our country hope, the
and giving
youngsters
our
hope
country-
to see, listen, but there are people that want to build this country.
Definitely. I mean, it's very important for us to also go back to the educational sector.
Yeah.
The educational sector, it must not always be about what Hitler did.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it must not be all about studying economics and having what we call economic growth. You know, the GDP and all that. We must also bring skills into the educational sector. You know, we must also bring programs that will educate these people in the basic education before they even go to tertiary, before they even go to institutions of higher learning. But start there in the basic sector. And then from then, that's why you would be amazed with China, where you'd find young people in China, they are able to build a nice project which could be used as a model for you know, let me not say institutions, but rather projects that are relevant on a day-to-day.
Sure. Yeah, and listen, I like China. Listen, let me just
I
say.
need to elaborate on that.
Yeah, let
Not
me.
that there's something wrong with it, but
Yeah.
The thing is, I like performance-based.
I agree. I think that's something that they most certainly did right.
Definitely.
I like the performance-based. If you do good, shop, thank you, we'll incentivize you. If you're not doing good or you're not doing your job and you're not performing, sorry, pal, bye-bye.
Of
And
course.
that's the issue that's currently in our system.
Well, I think also what makes our system a bit delayed is having too many political parties in parliament.
That's I
Because
agree.
if
It's too many opinions.
yeah, there's too many
That might be a
opinions.
first place to actually start getting some unity, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we can maybe really try and consolidate a lot of these parties.
No,
I mean,
well, we
it's
have a lot.
absolutely
I mean,
nuts.
there's a lot of political parties coming up next year, by the way, which you might be surprised. Well, I've interviewed a few political leaders who have
Starting their own
launched. Yeah,
parties. We know about the couple that also coming. So.
They are coming. So my question is, do we need more political parties to solve the problem that we are facing? No. Why don't we use the current political parties that we have and we amend their constitutions and policies and say, listen, well, I'm an ANC member, I'm a DA member, I'm an EFF member, I'm an ATM member, but this is how I look at things. Let's rather have at least 3 political parties. We are fine.
Yeah.
With 3 political parties, we know if this political
Because
party is not going to work, we'd rather substitute with this one. You know, and then from there we substitute with that one.
Well,
Sorry, Daniel, I just want to, because there's a fair point in that, but it's complicated because,
Yeah.
you know what really makes it difficult is just to even decide for yourself
Yeah.
which political party's policy
Yeah.
you actually believe is the right one for the country, in and of itself, is extremely difficult as it stands right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not even talking about the actual capability and the ability to actually do it, right? You can just look on a policy level. Because it has become so complicated, and specifically within South Africa, because this whole thing about capitalism and socialism and communism and all of these things being so intertwined, it really becomes difficult. And so even if you do consolidate it into 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 parties,
Yeah.
you know, how do you get one that you actually do believe has the solution? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think 2024 is coming, right?
it's coming quite.
2024 is coming, right?
Well, this is very relevant.
It's coming fast.
And right now, before I even actually get to that answer, is next year it's going to be a very hectic year for us, because there might be a challenge that on a national level we're going to experience what we call national coalition of governments. And we know what coalition does. Coalition, it delays what we call decision making. Coalition comes with a lot. I mean, you would find that this political party is interested in this mandate, and then this one is not. And then once you start having a lot going on. I mean, we've seen it with the seat of Tshwane, when they didn't have a speaker.
That's
You know, you would find the EFF causing a bit of, I can't say it's chaos, but it's their constitutional right to protest. But you know, those type of things.
I get you.
For us to reach a decision, does a political party have to protest? It's going to be a problem.
It became
It's
habit.
going to be a problem.
But here's where, and I have to admit, I think there's value in this. I think there's a lot of value in this. You know, referencing the interview that Gareth had with Vusi. Again, I mean, that was actually really thought-provoking, to say the least. It would be great. I think you'll enjoy having a look at it. But Vusi said that, I can't remember the exact phrasing of the question, but the answer, I think, in and of itself is going to be enough. But he said that we need, and I'm paraphrasing, right? But we need a leader that doesn't care about what people think of him. He actually wants to do the right thing.
That was powerful.
He's coming in with the understanding that people might not necessarily like him. You get what I'm saying?
Of course.
But he's actually coming in to really fix things.
Definitely.
You know, and that is a great starting point, I think, for this problem. Because then it's not a power play anymore. Then it's actually, with true intent, looking at Transnet and saying, how do we fix this? Looking at Eskom saying, how do we fix this?
And start with one and start fixing.
And fixing. Well,
and here's the thing. Why not just at least start with one and fix that?
But that's
That's the weirdest thing. Is
just start with one, fix it, get it something to go.
So
Get something to
know,
work.
that's why I'm saying, according to my own opinion, President Mbeki was the best president South Africa has ever had, because he was a man of his word. He would always speak, and it goes. You know, there's no interference. That's why sometimes when I sit down, I'm like, who's advising this man? President Cyril Ramaphosa. I'm like, who's advising this man? Because I mean, we are facing a lot of things as a country. I mean, let's look at Eskom. Eskom is depressing. We can't even get the necessary rightful answers of what's going on. And the sad part about it is, we as citizens are paying for it.
I hear you.
You know, we as citizens, we are paying for it, because our tax is going to pay for that mess. Secondly, we are also suffering from the consequences of those type of decisions that are taken. You know, so I think there is a valid point that you've mentioned. We need a leader that is not entitled on people's opinions. Of course, the opinions will play a vital role. But when you take a decision that is good for the country, then you should be unapologetic about it.
And they should believe in that decision and stick to that decision. And let the decision play out. If it was bad, listen, at least he flippin' then stuck to that decision.
Definitely.
But it wasn't like this pendulum keep on hanging and there's no, outcome actually that happens. Because that's how it feels for me.
But here's the logical question then, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't think it's going to be fair to ask anybody to put a name to it, right? But do you think he or she actually exists in the country at this point in time? That person who's actually willing to put up their hand and say, you know what, I don't care what people think of me, I'm going to try and solve for these matters and really solve for them.
Yeah.
Because it's, again, and I'm again playing a bit of devil's advocate here, but that's a tough spot to put yourself.
Yeah.
It's going to really take an individual of, for lack of a better explanation, real stature to do that.
I agree.
And then the conversation becomes difficult, because if that is what we need,
Yeah.
yes, and there isn't such a person in the country.
Well, the
facing a challenge.
the interesting question would be, who wants to find themselves in a position when the current state is like that?
Yeah,
When already you know that you're in a position of power and already your head is going to be grilled. You know?
Well, and the thing is,
it's difficult.
the businesses that's running underneath the government is controlling everything, and is controlling the powers, and that's the issue.
That's why.
But let me can I ask a very controversial question?
Yeah.
Okay, and I apologize if it's. I mean, you're more than welcome to shove it. But if we're really saying, because I think this is one of the things that might be holding us back, is the whole situation that it's very difficult to progress with these matters whilst we're sitting with the current challenges that we're facing here. And when I reference the past, I'm not referencing pre-94 or even, you get what I'm saying? I'm referencing the current state that the country finds itself in.
Yeah.
Let's say over the last 10 years, corruption and all of those things.
Yeah.
So here's the question, right? Do you think it might be the right thing, or even plausible to say, listen, there's like an indemnity. Whatever was done wrong in the last 10, 20, 30 years, right? You're forgiven. But let's open up everything and let's fix. What do you think about that? I'm not convinced either way, but I have been in conversations where that's come up, and it's a very difficult thing, but it's something to discuss, I think.
You know. Okay. Quite.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's
Let
quite.
me just ask
because-
you, Stephan, while you're thinking.
Yeah.
Well, so you're asking for government to open up everything and say, listen, sorry, we stuffed up.
Well,
Open up so that we can fix this.
What I'm saying is, what I'm asking is if are we really ever going to get to a place where there's going to be a clean slate? If that doesn't happen, if we believe that needs to happen at some point in time for us to progress, are we ever going to get there if we don't just draw a hard line and say, let's start with a clean slate? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I can't think that it's right. The question that I'm trying to pose is, how else are we going to get there?
Well, I think, according to my own opinion, I think a lot of people are so keen. The reason why they can't get to that point or that decision to say you are forgiven and let's move on is because they believe a position of leadership should have accountability. You know,
That's a good point.
a position of leadership, you have to account to every decision that you make. More especially when you're involved in corruption. You can't just take the money that belongs to the state and then you do as you please and then you think you would work freely without being taken into account. You know, what will happen to the justice system of the country?
I get
You know, if a politician can walk freely without being accounted for, then what's going to happen to those who commit the crime on a day-to-day? They would also sit down and say, I also should be forgiven for the sins that I have done.
Yeah, no,
You know?
I get you. So,
Let's start everything afresh. And then what's going to happen about the sense of accountability? What's going to happen about this very same constitution that we believe that we are all bound to it? You know?
I think that's a good answer.
it's
I really
well,
think
it's
that's a
it's
good
it's
answer,
a
because it is a difficult one to think about. Because ultimately, and why it's difficult is, I mean, we want to progress, right?
Yeah.
Of course.
But that is a
course.
fair point.
Of course, yeah. So the constitution plays a vital role.
Let's touch on that, because you mentioned it. I think we must skip to the Constitution.
Yeah.
What's wrong with the Constitution?
Oh,
Because I mean,
quite frankly, I'm actually going to go into that route of being a lawyer. Well, I feel like the Constitution, there's this advocate that once said, the Constitution is not serving us any sense of justice. For us to start afresh as South Africans, we must rewrite the Constitution
Good
You know?
gosh.
We must rewrite the constitution, and all three spheres of governments must resign. Meaning the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary, including the Chief Justice, the President, and all parliamentary members must resign. And we must appoint afresh with a new constitution in place, which I believe it's quite good, because that very same constitution that will be implemented will give us a chance of having young people in power.
Well, it's almost like a new vision, and I just want to, because that's how I get it.
Yeah.
It's almost like, obviously that's what it is, but it's starting. Listen, this is what we're doing as a country doesn't work. We can all agree. Let's not try to sugarcoat this whole thing. It doesn't work. So rewrite the constitution. It's a new vision for the country.
I mean,
get all the people that's currently running it out of powers, because you obviously don't know what you're doing.
Definitely.
But do you think, and this is the probe that I want to do.
Yeah.
Do you think this will pierce all the corruption that's going on in the legal side, in the financial side?
That's what I'm saying. When you're having such positions or such a draft of a new constitution, that's where you can actually have a say in the new laws that will be implemented. I mean, ever since the constitution has been drafted, have you taken part in drafting the constitution?
Yeah.
You haven't. Have you taken part in drafting the constitution?
And I'm not sure I want.
You haven't. You haven't. But right now, I think you're at a better state where you can analyze some of the laws. You can analyze what you feel like it's better for the country. You can analyze some of the policies that you think you can implement. So why not have a new constitution that has your saying in it, that has your saying in it, that has different ideas that can actually form the united South Africa that we actually want.
Listen, I'm going to probe you politely on this, because I don't want to sound neutral on this, because I don't think that I am. I think it's a very dangerous thing. But no, let me put it this way. I think there's a material risk when you start touching a country's constitution. I don't think that's an easy thing that you can just quickly say we need to change this, right? Because there's a lot involved. So my question is, if there is one thing that you really feel strong about that needs to be changed in the constitution, what would that be? Because I think it's difficult, and I'll just speak a bit so that you can think, because I mean that is putting you on the spot, and
it's putting me on the spot.
And you're more than welcome not to answer, but I think it's a fair question in light of what we have been discussing, right? Because the reason is that I don't think that it's fair to talk towards the Constitution on a high level and say, let's just change the Constitution. You get what I'm saying? I think it's more prudent and more pertinent to say, but listen, this is something in the Constitution that needs to be addressed. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So is there something specific that you could think of now? If not, that's also fine, because I mean it really is putting you on the spot. But you get what I'm saying? Yeah. Because remember the Constitution, and I might be neutral on it from that perspective.
Okay.
But this is what makes it difficult. Is, to my knowledge, and I'm not an expert, the worldview about our Constitution is that it's a really good Constitution. The worldview.
Yeah.
Right? But I mean, there have been people making similar sort of gestures, saying, listen, but it's not perfect for the actual challenge that South Africa faces.
And South Africa faces a unique challenge. It's not the same. We're really facing a unique issue, and maybe for that, and that's where I'm leaning towards maybe looking for a specific, because I'm looking for a solution. And I go towards the thing, and the first principle almost of, if nothing changes, everything will stay the same. Which means, and I'm gravitating towards getting all the powers out of power. Right? The new constitution, in the sense of not to change the constitution, because I don't also think that's what you mean in the sense of, listen, get rid of all things South Africa.
You can't get rid of
so there will be parts
of the constitution which I feel like I'm going to read that Bible again because it's a law Bible, and then I'm going to actually point out some of the relevant sections which I believe it's irrelevant and it's not practicing on its day to day, you know.
Yes.
And then definitely, I think for those who actually would want to hear my opinion with regards to this, after I've read the entire Bible, then definitely they can feel free to DM me, and then we can talk about it. You know?
So
And it should
be.
they can
Because it's a
feel free.
difficult one. I mean,
Yeah, it's a difficult one. They can feel free, and then we can have a discussion about it. But I'll simply read that Bible and read specifically each and every chapter of the Constitution and familiarize myself with it and highlight the points which I believe they should be out because they are not being practiced. You know?
I agree.
Yeah.
Let's quickly maybe touch on 2024, just on a high level, right? I mean,
Yeah.
everybody agrees it's important.
Yeah.
Everybody agrees it's important.
Yeah.
I don't think, unless you want to, that we need to talk specifics regarding parties. But the question that I'd like to pose is, how do we, as the younger generation in the country, get our entire generation involved to the full extent that they need to be in this next election? How do you think we do that?
Okay, so politics is a very I've actually engaged with a lot of young people about politics to say, why are you guys not engaging into politics? Some of them, they are scared, you know. Some of them would say politics is a dangerous game. Some they would say, hey man, I still have my family. I'm like, no, that is just not an excuse for me because I'm into that industry and it's working, you know.
No, okay.
So the only way young people can engage or can be part of politics is for you to actually place your vote and have your say. Because if you don't place a vote, you don't have a say, simply. If you're not happy about a certain political party's constitution, mandate, how they run a certain municipality, how they run a certain country, how they run a certain province, then you have the chance to vote them out by simply voting for a new political party or a different political party. You know?
And I don't think sometimes we we understand the importance of it, but it's really important.
It is.
It's super important for
It is.
every single one to cast their vote. They need to.
You have to. You know, you have to vote. And also sometimes it's very difficult for you to occupy positions, you know, such as being a public protector, if you are not playing a vital role in politics. It's very difficult for you to play a vital role into the office of the Auditor General because it's part of the Chapter 9 institutions that plays a role in what we call public servants. You know, so for you to actually vote, you actually know that my vote counts and I actually can play a vital role in appointing a specific political party into place. And also, I've got, you know, the chance to actually express my views
No, I get you.
through actually voting.
I think that's a fair point. And I do think that, from my side at least, it's an imperative. I think, listen, it's incumbent on all of us to start raising our voices on this so that it really becomes topical amongst our generation.
Definitely. And, you know, and what I'm saying, I'm not simply saying vote for a specific political party. What I'm saying is now it's a period where people are campaigning, right?
No, I get you.
Political parties are campaigning. Just grab one of their manifestos, read it.
Yeah.
You know, read each and every political party's manifesto and vote for a political party that serves your interest. You know,
But at least vote. Don't just not vote because you just don't care about government, because that's happening.
Definitely.
It's happening a lot, and I didn't. That's why I said we sometimes don't realize how important it is. We're driving business and all these things in our country, and you know, 2024 the elections is important, but there should be a huge drive getting the people to vote.
Of course.
That's maybe one of the biggest things we need to do currently, is having a huge drive for people just to cast their vote, because there are a couple of unhappy people, and like you said, read the manifesto. I don't know about, and yeah, I don't want to say, but there's some parties that I like their constitution, but I don't agree with what they're doing. So
Well, the execution part, right?
the execution part, well, it's the corruption that obviously collapse, I think most of the parties that
Yeah.
let's tell it maybe the top, let's say 10. But the thing is, and corruption, not only in parties, corruption. That's why corruption and if something's corrupt, it will fall. It cannot go on like this. I don't know if the people think that it's going to go on like this. It's not. They're going to get exposed. It's going to
Definitely,
happen.
it's gonna
not,
happen.
There's a law that goes against them.
Definitely.
So if you corrupt, it cannot. It's the world is not set up for corrupt people to survive.
Definitely, and I also
doesn't
believe
work that way.
When you touch of corruption and these relevant things, which you say that you love the constitution, but you don't love what they do. When you engage into their meetings, becoming a member of a certain political party, when you engage into their meetings, you can actually address those relevant things. You don't have to become a politician for you to
I get you.
to become a member of a certain political party. You can always go there with the intentions of bettering the organization so that it serves the mandate of.
But do they really listen when you?
Well,
I need to put my opinion in that.
For example, there is a lot of. You could be amazed on how your opinion in a room of a maximum of 30 people, you'd be amazed how your opinion could actually catch the interest of 20 people in the room.
I get you. So it's almost like, yeah.
It could catch the interest. It could catch the interest of 20 people in that room. And there is no way that a branch or a political party can escape
I get you.
such when you have 20 people, including yourself, would be 21, who would actually move the organization to that level.
Okay. So that's a fair point. So involvement.
Yeah, involvement.
He's telling us to get more involved.
Willingness, right? We touched on this earlier, but I mean, there needs to be a willingness to actually be there.
Most definitely. And I think sometimes we should actually get a guest who deals with these things on a day-to-day. I think I must actually have a chat with you guys, and you must have a guest that you can actually say, hey, listen, what is your take on this? And this person works with these. It could be a member of parliament, it could be a mayor. I will try and see how we can get this person and get the mayor, and then you can actually engage with them from a point of level of politics in a direct line.
Listen, Hopewell, we are committed to drive change. How that looks, I don't.
Well, that's what we're trying to figure out.
How that the path we don't know yet.
Yeah.
All we know is we're gonna keep on hitting this wall almost in front of us until we get and can see what's on the other side.
Of course.
So if it needs to be us doing that, we game for it. And I think that, I believe there would definitely come something out of it.
Yeah, of course. So no, definitely. We would. I mean, I believe the only way we can get ourselves somewhere is by what you've mentioned, being united, being in one place, irrespective of age, irrespective of gender, irrespective of race. But as long as we have one common vision and unity and love for one another as Africans, then we can meet the goal and mandate.
That's it.
I think that is a fair closing remark. From our side, thanks for the time.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me.
We look forward to seeing you as a member of parliament one day.
That's
the idea.
Let me just say, God willingly.
Yeah. But thanks for the time, thanks for the chat, and we look forward to maybe one or two more.
Definitely. I mean, I'm here anytime. I'm just one phone call away.
That's it. Yeah. Well, thanks for the short notice.
So thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, and for our viewers and everybody watching, please drop a comment, talk to us what your issues are or what your struggles are in our country. If there could be more topics we can speak about, and remember to subscribe. Cheers for now.
Cheers.